Simpson, and it's time for reading today. Today we are going to read chapter 18 of How to Steal a Dog, and we are going to analyze our characters. So there are a bunch of characters in this story, but we are going to talk about some specific ones today. So we, again, are going to talk about character change and also analyzing our characters. So here's the thing. Most stories, books, passages, TV shows, to be honest with you, movies, to be honest with you, almost any story that you watch, video games, if it has a plot, they contain a lesson that characters learn and grow from. All characters, they change, they grow, and they learn lessons as a result of events or conflicts in the story. So characters are much like us as people. As you get older, you're not always going to think the same thing that you did in the fourth grade. So let's say right now in the fourth grade, your best friend is Sally. She is your very best friend in the whole entire world. Well, maybe Sally moves. When Sally moves, you're going to get a new best friend, right? That changes you as a person because you no longer have Sally as your best friend. So you're going to have to change and grow and become friends with somebody new. Let's say that you are at recess and you fall off the monkey bars and you break your arm. So before that, you weren't scared of anything. You literally would jump off the top of a slide and you would do whatever you wanted. You would run, you'd fly off the swings, no big deal. But you fell and you broke your arm and it hurt pretty bad. You might change and think, I'm a little bit more scared that I'm going to get hurt now. I'm a little bit scared of those monkey bars, and I don't know if I'm going to do those monkey bars again. Characters do the same thing. So you're a character in your own life, basically. They do the same exact thing. Because of events in the story, they change, they grow, they learn new things, they get older. Because right now, as a fourth grader, you might think you know everything in the whole world, but you don't. You're going to grow up one day and you're going to realize that you learn so much and you grow so much. And what was important to you in the fourth grade, like maybe Fortnite or your PS4, your Xbox, is not so important to you. When you get old, like me or other people, when you get super, super old and you have a bunch of millions of kids or something, your Xbox, your PS4 is not going to matter as much as spending time with them. So, that happens with characters in our story. So today we are going to track a character. You're going to do this on your own, and I'm going to let you guys do an easy one. I'm going to let you do Georgina. And she has had so much character change from the beginning of our story to the middle of our story to the end now. We are at the very end. We will finish on Friday. From the beginning, the middle, and the end, Georgina has changed so much. So when you do your assignment today, you're going to have to think back to the very beginning of the book and tell me, what was she at the beginning? What was she at the middle? And what was she at the end? Think about her in regards to Willie. And then you're going to have to tell me why that character changed. And I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to do Luann. Luann is Georgina's best friend. Well, she was. And then something happened, and Luann changed. So, at the beginning, Luann and Georgina were best friends and spent a lot of time together. They did Girl Scouts together. They had sports that they did together. They did so much together. Then, in the middle of our book, we've already done the middle, and I'm not going to do the end until after we read our chapter today, just in case. But in the middle of our book, Luann starts to view Georgina different. So Luann stops spending time with Georgina. And she makes new friends. Sometimes she makes fun. No, she doesn't make fun yet. She avoids her and ignores her. Remember how she said that she was busy. They couldn't hang out because she was just so busy, yet she hung out with another friend that day. So Luann goes from being best friends with Georgina, and then in the middle, she kind of stops spending time with her, and she makes new friends, and she's avoiding Georgina, and she doesn't want to spend time with her anymore, and she ignores her when she asks if she wants to hang out, and she doesn't even let her come over to her house. So we're going to read chapter 18 today together. And after chapter 18, I'm going to finish and do the end. And I'm going to talk about why that character changed. What did she do? What did she learn? Is it a change for the good? Is it a change for the bad? And then I'm going to let you go off and I'm going to let you do the character of Georgina, which should be pretty easy because she's the main character in the book. So let's go ahead and get started. By the time Mama got back to the car that night, Toby was asleep and I was finishing up my math homework. Hey, Mama said, tossing her purse on the seat and handing me a blueberry muffin. Me and Toby stayed here all afternoon like you told us to, I said, peeling the paper from the muffin and taking a bite. It was dry and crumbly, but it tasted good. I know that's hard on y'all, Georgina, Mama said. I promise things will get better soon. Yeah, right, I said in my head. I've heard that before. But out loud, I said, have you got enough money saved up yet? Mama sighed. Well, I was doing real good until this darn car decided to up and die on us, she said. I swear when it rains, it pours. What are we going to do now? I said. She dug through her purse and pulled her car keys out. I'm trying to find somebody who can fix the car cheap, she said. Patsy's nephew might take a look at it tomorrow. She put the key in the ignition and turned it. But this time, instead of that click sound we'd been hearing, the engine whirred and then started with a roar. Mama jerked her head around and grinned at me. It started, she squealed. Toby sat up and rubbed his eyes. What happened? I pumped my fist in the air and let out a whoop. Mama clasped her hands together like she was praying, and she hollered up at the ceiling, Hallelujah, praise the Lord. The car started? Toby said. Me and Mama nodded at him, and then we all slapped each other a high five. Mama put the car in gear and pulled into the street. Let's go find us a place to spend the night before our luck runs out and this thing dies again. We drove through the streets of Darby, Mama humming, Toby snoozing, and me wrestling with all my crazy thoughts. First, there was Willie, tied up on that rotten old porch instead of curled up next to Carmela. Then there was Carmela, missing her little dog more than anything. And then there was Mookie. How come he kept popping into my swirling thoughts? I wasn't sure, but something about those bicycle tire tracks and this broken down car starting up like it did had got me to thinking about Mookie. Mostly he just seemed like a crazy old man, but sometimes I wondered if maybe he wasn't as crazy as he seemed. So let's pause real quick. Remember Mookie. Now, Mookie said that sometimes he did jobs, right? And sometimes he got paid for them, and sometimes he did them just because people needed help. And then Georgina, like the detective that she is, she saw that there were tire tracks next to her car. And then automatically her car is started. Do you think Mookie had something to do with that? Let's make an inference here. I infer that Mookie, out of the kindness of his heart and trying to help Georgina, I think he fixed the car without telling her. I think he's trying to be nice and helpful. And I think that because there were tire tracks next to the car is starting now, and Georgina can't get him off of her mind. What do you think? Let's keep reading. We spent that night on a dark, quiet street not far from Whitmore Road, which made me think so much about Carmela that I didn't sleep too good. I kept picturing her in my mind, tossing and turning in her bed. She'd probably get up a few times and make sure that little doggy door was open, just in case Willie came back during the night. Maybe she'd shine her flashlight up and down the street, whistling and calling his name. She might even think she heard him barking from way off in the woods again and drive her car in that direction, hollering his name out the window. Then she'd come back home all alone and sit on the couch with one of his chewed-up toys in her lap. When my mind started wandering over to that old house where little Willie was curled up on that dirty, falling-apart porch, I sat up in the back seat and looked out the window at the moss fluttering around a nearby streetlight. The air smelled sweet like honeysuckle. I could hear the sound of a creek nearby, that even ripply sound of water. Every now and then a bullfrog croaked. Those noises reminded me of the time me and Luann camped out in her backyard. We'd shined our flashlights up on the ceiling of the tent and told each other our secrets, which boys we liked, how many kids we wanted when we got married, and stuff like that. Then Luann had said we had to tell each other the worst thing we had ever done. She told me how one time her mom had knitted her a sweater and she hated it so much she threw it in the garbage. Then she told her mom she'd left it on the school bus. When it was my turn, I told Luann about the time I wrote a nasty word on my desk at school, and when my teacher saw it and hollered at me, I told her Emily Markham had done it. Emily had cried so hard she got an asthma attack and had to go home. That was it. That was the worst thing I'd ever done, but not anymore. If Luann and I camped out and I shared our secrets now, I'd have to tell her I'd stolen a dog. What would she think about that? I wondered. I fell asleep that night to the soothing sound of the creek flowing over rocks and winding through the dark woods somewhere outside the car window. The next day after school, I went straight on over to Carmela's. Toby had to study for a spelling test at the coffee shop. Mama thought I was trying out for the softball team like Luann and Lisa and everybody. I knew I shouldn't be lying to Mama, but I had to. I needed to find out if Carmela had gotten any money yet. When I got up on the porch, I could hear Carmela inside yelling, "Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Gertie." Then there was the bang of the phone slamming down. Hard. "Carmela?" I called through the screen door. I heard her shuffling up the hall. "It's me, Georgina." I squinted through the screen into the dark room. Carmela was standing there with her arms dangling limply at her sides and her hair hanging over her face. "Carmela?" She lifted her head real slow and looked at me. Her face was all red and splotchy. I pushed the screen door open and I stuck my head in. "Can I come in?" I said. She nodded. I stepped inside. The house smelled like rotten food or something. "What's the matter?" I said. Carmela made her way over to her easy chair and dropped it into it with a grunt. Her hair was damp with sweat sticking up to her splotchy cheeks. "I came home from work early just so I could call Gertie," she said. "I should have known better. She just flat out won't lend me the money." "Oh, I guess you don't remember that time I kept her kids while she was in the hospital," she said, "or that time I drove her out to Gatesville in the middle of the night when her car broke down." She took a magazine off the pile of the coffee table and she fanned herself. "I guess being sisters don't mean nothing," she said. "So what are you going to do?" She threw her hands up and let them fall on her knees with a slap. "Nothing I can do. If somebody brings Willie home, I'll just have to—" "Hey, wait a minute." She snapped her fingers and grinned at me. "What?" I said. "I know who'll lend me the money," she said. "Who?" "My Uncle Haywood." She pushed herself up out of the chair and went over to the desk. She took a beat-up address book out of the drawer and flipped through the pages. "There!" She jabbed a finger at the page. "Uncle Haywood. I'm going to call him." And so she did. Called her Uncle Haywood and told him the whole pitiful story. I lived every minute of it, but it like to broke my heart hearing about it like that. When she finished, she said, "Yes, sir," and "No, sir," and "I will," and by the time she hung up, she was grinning at me and clapping her hands. "Is he going to lend you the money?" I said. "He sure is." Carmela pushed the damp hair away from her face. "Now all I have to do is hope and pray somebody brings my Willie home," she said. Suddenly her smile dropped and her eyebrows squeezed together. "Do you think he's okay?" "Who?" "Willie," he said. "Do you think Willie's okay?" "Sure," I said. "Really?" And I nodded. Carmela looked out the window. "I hope you're right," she said. "I bet he's trying to find his way home right now," I said. Carmela kept staring out the window. "I wonder where he is," she said. I felt my face burning. I was glad Carmela wasn't looking at me. I bet he's probably. "I hope he's not scared," Carmela said. I shook my head. Nah, he's not scared. I mean, he isn't. You know, like I said before, if I had $1,000,000, I'd give every penny of it away to get Willie back." She nodded at me. "I really would," she added. I looked down at the dusty wooden floor. "Did you get a chance to check those woods over there?" Carmela said, jerking her head toward the window. Yeah, a little bit," I said. Me and Toby, we looked in there some, but—" "Did you call his name?" Carmela said, "and whistle?" "Sure we did," I said. "We called and called and—" "Georgina," Carmela put her hand on my shoulder, "I'll give you that $500 and anything else you want if you find him." I nodded, but I couldn't make myself say anything. I knew if there was a time for me to say, Carmela, I know where Willie is, that was it. But I didn't. And I knew my silence was like stirring. And the more I was stirring, the worse it was stinking. And that's the end of chapter 18. So Georgina went through a big change there, a big change. She went, remember, in the beginning, she was like, I'm going to steal this dog. There's everything that I have to do. I have to do it. So she stole the dog. Then in the middle, she was like, ooh, I don't know. Should I have done this? It's okay. I can do it. I stole the dog. I have to do this. And then in the end, she's kind of regretting it. It sounds like she might not even take that $500. So let's go ahead and finish my character map for Luann. So they were best friends, spent a lot of time together. And then she was like, oh, Georgina, I don't know about you. She makes new friends. She avoids her. She ignores her. So then Luann starts making fun of her. Remember, with the other friends, she doesn't stick up for her anymore. So now they're not even friends. So why did that character change? Like with Georgina, why did she start feeling regret for stealing Willie when she was so sure that she needed to, that she had to? Why? What happened? Did she learn a lesson? Did she grow? What happened in the story? Well, in this case, she stopped being friends with Luann. Georgina and Luann stopped being friends because Georgina lost her dad, lost their money. She was homeless now. Georgina had other things on her mind. She wasn't focused on having a friend. She wasn't focused on Luann. So she lost her friend, and Luann noticed that there was a change in Georgina. I think Luann knew she was homeless, and so she stopped being friends with her. So I'm going to say Luann knew Georgina's situation and stopped trying to be her friend. She flat out stopped trying to be her friend. And Georgina stopped trying to be friends with somebody. You've got to put in the effort to be their friend. You've got to hang out with them. You've got to stick up for them. You've got to be there for them. And Georgina stopped trying, and so did Luann. Georgina couldn't afford to do the things that they did together anymore. She had lost all of her money. So Luann just stopped being her friend. And because of that, she started eventually ignoring her, making new friends, and then started making fun of her because, yeah, Georgina probably didn't smell good. She probably didn't look put together. Georgina has lost everything, and Luann wasn't there for her. Is that a good friend? No, it's not a good friend. Why did she change? Well, she changed because Georgina changed. Georgina was homeless now. She couldn't do the same thing. She didn't have that money. And I think Luann didn't want to be seen with her. I think Luann was embarrassed of Georgina and what was going on. So instead of sticking up for her best friend, she decided, I'm out. I'm not going to be your best friend anymore. I'm going to do it on my own, and I'm going to find new friends. And that's what she did. And she fell into the crowd, and she did what everybody else did, which was make fun of Georgina. Not very nice. So today for your assignment, right down below, I'm going to have a paper that looks basically like this. It's going to have a box that says beginning, middle, end. And it says, why did the character change? You need to fill it out for Georgina. How was she in the beginning? You can even do her attitude at the beginning, middle, and the end. I would do her views about stealing Willie. Should she do it? Should she not do it? What was she like at the beginning, middle, and end? And why do you think all of a sudden towards the end she's having a character change where she might not take that money? Why? What happened? When you're done with that, turn in the PDF or take a picture and turn it in. All right, I love you guys. Have a great day.